Hello, my name is Nicholas Dickey, and today we're continuing with our Vibe engineering from zero to SaaS ChatGPT application series, video tutorial series. And today we'll be going through the part 2 of the series, focusing on the backend MCP server for our ChatVault application that we created a widget for in the first part. So we will continue with our development environment. We created a ChatVault Part 1 project last time around, and we have captured its LLM context, its AI context in these files for us, and we have this project with its own Git repository with some history in it, how we got here. So, and we have the parent root repository that we got from our ChatVault tutorial initially. So today we're going to be doing various generic things, getting things ready for the backend MCP server, and some things that are specific, just like in the first part, to the ChatVault project itself. So let's start by looking at the part 2 prompts. We have a generic prompt file again with all the generic prompts and the prompts that are specific for the application, ChatVault application. Let's start. Please refamiliarize yourself with the project by looking at context files. Review this and that, the prompt files. The part 2 project is named ChatVault Part 2. Review and let me know if you have any questions. Sounds reasonable. This part 2 has more probably subsections than we had in part 1, but it is from purely engineering point of view, it is more straightforward project. It's backend only. There are no widgets to worry about, and the widget, the SkyBridge technology is very brittle. It's very new, where MCP server technology is much more mature at this point, and just building a node server is very mature. So this should be an easier project, although it may have as much work involved. Just, creating test coverage. In part 1, it took about 40% of all the effort that was spent and time that was spent was in test creation. Let's see how it goes today. So it looked at the structure, looked at the first part, formulated requirements and some questions. Let's focus on those. Has any part work 2 started? Answers. No. Monorepo. Chat. It asks if the new project will be in the monorepo or keep them as siblings. So I don't know how to answer that actually. So I will just spell it out what I want. ChatVault Part 2 project is a sibling to ChatVault Part 1. Both are children of the root ChatVault tutorial database. We need to set up the database. I have an account, and by the way, I didn't talk about the prerequisites for this part. So you need an account with Neon. It's free. So you need a free account with Neon Postgres database, but I will be creating the project there and the database today from scratch. And you need the OpenAI API account. I think it is different from just ChatGPT account. I'm using the same login in both, I think, but those are like you need to do something to create. I don't remember, I did it a couple of years ago. So you need to go and find the API and make sure that you have the API access. We will be using the embeddings API, but you need to then capture the API key and save it somewhere. So we will be using the API key to access OpenAI. I think everything else will happen automatically. So we need to set up the database and starting point. I'm, when I ask it to ask questions, it just starts. Well, what else can I ask? They're not very productive, but anyway, we start with prompt 0. And actually, let's start with prompt 0. Let's not provoke it into more questions than necessary. Start with prompt 0. Execute. Execute. It's like Star Trek. So let's talk about what a prompt 0 is in part 2. It is about setting up the Neon PostgreSQL database. We will need pgvector extension there, but otherwise it's pretty fast. Execute. Yeah, it'll create instructions. Let it do that. Okay, so it is right here. So let's take a look. Go to Neon, create new project, region, get connection string. Yeah. So we already have Neon here, and we will be creating a new project. It'll be ChatVault tutorial. It is a free account. Let's set it up in Oregon. I'm setting everything up in Oregon, Amazon region. And create. It is pretty simple. So we are here, And we're getting a connection string, which we will copy and save somewhere. I will not do it now, but when it'll get there, we will use this open window to capture connection string. Don't worry, I will change the password or remove this database after the video recording is over. Let's go back to our IDE. Keep your connection string secure. Okay. So let's go to the next thing, which is prompt 1, initialize Node.js project with Drizzle. This is object relationship ORM, object relationship model, ORM, yeah. But it's basically a library that allows us to program the database from the project through the AI without going actually and creating schema using any extra visual tools, IDE tools for the database. No, AI will drive everything. So we want as much, it's like almost can be characterized as infrastructure as code. I'm not sure if it qualifies, but we want it in code. We want files inside the project that drive the database schema. And Drizzle is the best one as far as I know for that. So let's move on to prompt 1. So we have an empty database right now, basically created for us. Oh, we need to do something. I don't think we did the PG vector initialization. It was part of the prompt. So once you have PG vector extension, I think it's on me. I skipped its instructions. I became too reckless, I guess, and I didn't follow the instructions. So there is this line that I skipped, and I need to do that. It says enable the PG vector extension by executing this. So let's go and do that. Let's go to Neon, and let's go to SQL editor like instructed. Get rid of this and execute what we were told to execute. Okay, so now we installed the vector extension inside the PostgreSQL in Neon, and we can go back. Now we have the database set up inside Neon, and now we will be setting up everything we need on our end, on the client end. Drizzle and pgvector extension. It's installing everything. You can see that it's installing Drizzle. Lots of stuff. No errors. Though there are errors. That's okay. Type screen. What happened to my terminal? I'm running my IDE in a zoomed in window so that you can read inside the video what's going on. So I don't, it's they're very small windows. It's installing the serverless access. That's why I'm using Neon, because it's a serverless environment. You can run the Neon has API for executing, basically REST API for executing SQL instead of using the low-level binary SQL drivers that impose a connection. This is a connectionless setup that works well in the cloud environment, where we will end up eventually. our tests can run with regular SQL local PostgreSQL, but for the production environment, we want the connectionless environment that, so we can have, zillions of servers and connecting ad hoc to database instead of managing our own pool of connections. So create, it instructs us to create this important file, which is where our secrets will be, and store there the database connection and open API key. What I will do for my security sake, I will pause the video. I will create this file. I will put there my OpenAI API key. Database, I don't care because I will just change the API. I don't want to change my OpenAI API key after the video, so I will pause it. I will create the .env file, and I will not be opening it during this recording. Let me start with actually creating the file, empty file, so you see where it is created. And now I will pause and do some magic. Okay, so I've created the .env, .environment file with these variables in it, except filled out, and I don't want to show it because of my OpenAI API key, and I will let it proceed. So it is moving on to prompt 2. I thought it was still stuck in the middle of prompt 1, but it will. So prompt 2 is about now, because we had it, the second project, we have the overall root repository that we got from my initial empty repo with just prompts. And now we have also ChatVault Part 1 repo, which is we got from the SDK example originally from Pizza Server. And now we added a second project, ChatVault Part 2. So it's time to improve, to sort of add some order here, impose some order here, and go from having those two repositories into a single mono repo, we call it, that has two projects as child projects. So it'll be single repository, it'll be ChatVault tutorial repository, and it'll have two projects. This prompt also instructs it to detach the root repo from my original tutorial project repo, and then to preserve the Git history from the first project that we did yesterday. So yesterday we did a bunch of commits, and I don't want to lose them. Why? I mean, if I were doing it myself, I might have said, this is still a fresh project, who cares? But since I have this BZB helper, why not just tell it to do the thing that is kind of complicated, to preserving this commit history? You need to use, I guess it did, to use some fancy Git stuff. Well, I will trust it. Well, I will not trust it. I will ask questions. So it says that let's ask it. Did you preserve the commit history for the first project? It is, like I said, not very important because project one has like a couple of commits, which were, because those were important while we were still developing it, while we were debugging to be able to roll back. But now that it's working, we could have just started fresh if I was doing it myself. But again, why not preserve it? So it is looking at verifying that we saved. Oh no, so I caught it cutting a corner, which it tends to do. So now it's actually merging the history. So as a result of this work, we'll have one repo containing two projects, and it'll be fresh repo. We will create now project in my GitHub, and we will push it there so that we have actually a complete repository in GitHub that will survive if my local laptop goes bust. So merged part one did something very complicated. I don't even want. As long as it works, it's great. If it doesn't work, I will not be terribly upset. But before moving forward, so let's see if we see those changes um, reflected in our Git widget here in VS Code or cursor. So let me clarify. Did you add? No, let's add a second. Did it create a second project, or am I jumping the gun? Yeah, it did. So let's add a second project to Git and commit everything with appropriate commit message, and I will create a remote GitHub repo so that we can push it. So I will go and do this. So I will just create a new repo in my GitHub. I will say ChatVault tutorial. As you can see, I tried it before. Then remote. My tutorial repo. And let's just, it's a public. I don't care. And if you have a free GitHub account, all your repos are public, I believe. So we have this ChatVault repo, and this is its URI, Universal Resource Identifier. It is basically a more generic case of a URL. And we can now tell ChatGPT to use this to push it. So it is bragging that it ignoring my environment file and the node modules, which is the result of the build. Of course. So let's say push it to this GitHub remote directory. These are all like you build. Have you ever seen how a skyscraper is built in like in Manhattan, they spent 2-3 years digging a hole and putting foundation in it. And it's, you used to walk by, and it's always there are people at the bottom of this huge, huge hole, and they're doing something, and then they start pouring concrete. So I don't know, it could be 3 years later, all of a sudden you see the foundation beginning to get up above the ground, and then magic happens. And then all of a sudden you start, suppose you're walking to your office like we used to. And every day you're walking by, you see another floor, another floor, another floor, and goes like on, very fast, incredibly fast. So uh, the underground portion, the foundation portion, is almost invisible. It takes a lot of time, but it provides, it allows us then to grow, to build the app itself very quickly. And that's what we're doing right now. We're working on a foundation for Part 2 for the backend MCP server. And it's all important. Having a clean source repository is important. It'll be part of our CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment process when we go into production. So we have to have everything prepared and following some. I'm not a stickler. I'm not pedantic about best practices, good, engineering practices. And I'm not arrogant enough to bring all the best practices from software engineering into web engineering, which I believe is a separate engineering um, discipline, separate type of engineering. Um, Although this may be not true, but for now, they exist as separate domains. And at some point, all software engineering will become uh, what we're doing today, probably, most likely. At least I'm not going to type by hand any source files anytime soon. Anyway, we're continuing. The report is available. We can verify that bold claim. Let's go and see the code. Oh yeah, we have lots of stuff, all the prompts, everything we did. So now it will never be lost. You can share it with your buddies, whatever. We have it in GitHub. Congratulations. We are at getting to 30-minute mark. So let's move on. Execute prompt 3, I believe, right? That was 2. And let's do prompt 3 now. And that will create the actual MCP HTTP streaming server. It will still be generic, like a MCP server, not ChatVault MCP server. But it will, there is a lot of protocol to be handled by the server. So we are imposing certain know-how on it and saying, don't use SSC, and also look at part 1, what we did, make sure that it's like building transcontinental railroad. Make sure that they will meet with the golden spike somewhere in Illinois, and not not like this. So we build the widget, and we build um, now we're building the backend, and they should match. All this is covered here. It's our prompts are not very wordy. I avoid overfitting, except where specificity is necessary. We have to tell it to use HTTP streaming and not SSE, because it was trained when SSE was still the king, and in the last year it became extinct, so we have to tell it. And also because our original SDK example is using SSE. It was probably, they were working on it for years. So sometimes it's necessary to be very specific, like respond with HTTP 204, because we know that ChatGPT likes it. But in most cases, I'm trying not to create those like extra like source code, almost high-level language for prompts. The specificity is provided by tests. So tests will be pretty specific, where prompts should be loosey-goosey. I don't know, loosely fitting our objectives. They should be flexible enough to survive different, AI could have taken a different path to get us there. So we shouldn't over tighten the prompts. We should extremely tighten the test, because tests capture the specification. So there are three parts to this in my mind. There is specification, which at some point I may evolve to have separate like directory. These are the specs, and these are the prompts, and these are the tests. And maybe another one to capture what's called ADRs, the architecture decision records. Like we decided to do this and not this, so we're always doing this and not this. The guardrails, never do this, whatever you're doing, never. It's like two-liners, but we're using Neon streaming API instead of SQL drivers, JDBC. So let's see. It is bragging about something. Prompt 3 complete. Basic MCP HTTP streaming server created. Well, we will see about that, because next steps, prompt 5 is set up test framework matching that generic MCP server. So let's start testing. Execute. I know. Prompt 5. And this is in part 1. This part took 25 minutes, almost 30 minutes. But it feels like it is spending time developing tests, but in reality, the time went into fixing bugs. Both inside tests, understanding better how the test should be done, but also it actually found tons of bugs to fix. So we'll see. If it takes a lot of time, this is time well spent. We don't want to be facing those bugs when we're integrating with ChatGPT. It is very hard to debug there, and the environment there is very brittle, like I said. But oh wow, it is basically doing something exciting. It's updating documentation. Oh, as part of the generic test framework, something that we didn't do yesterday, we have to have a local database for testing. During the tests, we need to have a local database. We don't want to use paid, expensive Neon database for testing, but I also want to start our test from scratch. So we ask AI to install the local PostgreSQL using Docker. So it is right now installing Docker and installing building the containers, setting up chest, and it's a lot of stuff that it's trying to do. We will end up with a very complete testing environment. It will not be like okay, let's try some minimal stuff here, and then later. And note, we're not creating technical debt. That's one of the upsides. Well, technical debt meaning we're doing something, sloppy, prototypey today, but tomorrow we'll come back and we will, upgrade everything and make it correct. That's the way they used to be, like even a year ago. But the current agentic, very thorough agentic code agent that we are using here allows us to proceed with zero technical debt. We had this a little bit of zero of technical debt after the first part, with GitHub not being set up, only having a local repository, and we just caught up with that. We just created actually a remote depository. We have a real database, production database set up. We're setting up a test database. Okay, I guess the we are generating a little bit of technical debt in terms of, but it's not a technical debt. It's just phasing. We're doing things in phases. So we will have to set up CI/CD process. So we will at some point transform these tests that are generated in part 1 and part 2 into, in part 4, we'll be transforming them into continuous integration tests that are executed on GitHub, not on a local server, but on GitHub platform. It creates a complete fresh box for it, the Docker container. It has its own PostgreSQL server running that we'll be using for testing on Postgres. So, but it's not technical debt. We just know that we will have to do it as part of part 4 when we go to production. Set up the CI process. We just don't need it. So it's not technical debt. It's not like we did something sloppy today. We just, and then we will fix it. We're not cutting any corners at all. So this is an amazing side benefit, or it's not maybe even side benefit, but unexpected major benefit of web engineering methodologies that I'm using here. And I'm sure it has a long way to go in terms of evolution. I'm sure a year from today I will be using different techniques and I will have much more structure, but I'm ahead of the curve on in a specific direction for web engineering on ChatGPT apps and SaaS ChatGPT apps specifically. There I'm like on the bleeding edge of everything. And as the whole thing develops, as OpenAI develops its tools and its capabilities, and as agents develop, we will be updating our methodology. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm re-recording these videos 3 months or 6 months from today, because everything changed. We are, surfing the waves here, the latest and greatest leading edge. So prompt 5 complete, generic test framework set up. Yeah, that was too damn quick. No negotiables, man. Well, we'll see. So, how do I run tests? Ooh, tell me I'm about to run out of cursor. With recording all those videos, I'm really leaning into AI usage limits here. That's okay. I will pay another $40 and extend it. So it says I need to start the PostgreSQL Docker container. Check Docker. Well, if tests fail. Okay, let's test commands. pnpm test. No, I'm pretty sure we need to start Docker compose. So let's start with manual steps. Let's see. We're running Docker compose and bringing the Docker compose container up. I already see that it's not going to work, but I will let our buddy sort this out. It's amazing. It tells me to use this command, but it never tried it. This is like this is an old stuff. It was old a year ago or 2 years ago probably. So there's no more Docker dash compose. It's Docker space compose. It could be, I don't remember, 5 years ago when they switched, but it didn't know that. But that's okay. But it did not try it before recommending it to me. I get a little bit annoyed when it does things like that. So let's now do it again. It's just so arrogant. It assumed what it knows is current. And so where, oh, I'm in some completely wrong. Oh, never mind. To, you know what? I'm gonna just kill it. I'm gonna create a new one in ChatVault tutorial. So let's do this. Do I have to be in ChatVault Part 2? Yes. So it created the container. So we have now local PostgreSQL database running. Let's do the verification. Although I'm pretty sure it will up 14 seconds, looks good. View logs, okay, that's fine. So let's do the test. Let's do this PNPM test. PNPM test. And of course it doesn't work. Feeding back into the beast. We are approaching 43rd minute of our exercise. Yeah. So it never tried it. It was so confident that the test should work, but it didn't try nothing. Now, of course, and this is progress because it used to be just, it wouldn't even try. It says, oh, now it should work. But now at least it tries before telling me that it fixed it. Okay. So it is now running it with 60-second timeout. It's getting smarter every day, every week. Instead of getting, instead of hanging, it now puts timeout. But I didn't ask it to run it. It verified that it can run it. Should have let me run it. I don't trust it anyway. I will run it myself. But it's getting test failed. It is already running, so I left it running. Maybe that's why, but it shouldn't be brittle. It should survive the Docker running. We don't want to restart it every time. Why? No good reason. And it says fixed applied, everything's great. And you say, ha, now I will do it. Zero trust environment. Okay, so 8 tests ran for, it's an empty MCP server, empty everything. And we already have 8 tests. This is just great. So we have the tests, and can we now proceed with prompt 6? So now we have the schema file created, very important. This is actually the database. It has the vector custom type defined. It has a table, chats, doesn't need any more. It defines types. It looks great. It's just fantastic. Let's be honest. How much tedious work. I mean, we are on minute 55 now, and we are days and days, if not weeks, into the project. So, um, in before code agent uh, time frame. So chat schema defined, embedding utility created. Oh, wow. Wow. Save chat tool. Oh, it went ahead and implemented save chat tool, which was actually a separate step, I believe, in our separate prompt. Oh, no, that was the first step. Okay, never mind. Save chat. MCP server integration. And so it did not update the tests. So what I specified here in the prompts is first implement save chat, then implement load chats, the function that we had hard-coded yesterday, and we have just a dummy for save chats, search chats, and then do the tests. I actually like to do something a little bit different and start doing little tests with each step so that we have some confidence moving forward. And then we'll have the bigger test session with prompt 9. So can you add save chat specific test to the suite so that we can do some testing? Let's be explicit. Some confidence building testing next. Again, this is a zero trust environment, so every time you can verify things, you are building for success. You're setting yourself up for success. You invest into foundation, you invest into safety, you invest in scaffolding, and then boom, the stories, the floors start going up in your skyscraper amazingly fast. We're at 58, 59 minutes times mark, but I'm still confident we can hit hour and a half again, 90 minutes for this whole thing because so much is invested in foundation and scaffolding that there shouldn't be any nasty surprises when we actually try the production. Ooh, yeah, the server may be using a different database. No kidding. What server? It's beginning to question the basics. It's suspecting the .env file is not getting loaded. Oh, and what is it? How did it fix it? What did it fix? Did it say? Checking, we need to load the .env file. Whatever, it fixed it, and we are wipe coding, so we are happy. I will run the complete test suite. It's just seconds. Let's make sure that there are no new regressions. And haha, So it didn't bother it. It just ran one test and it's happy. You see? And I'm a little bit more thorough. I run all the tests. That's why they're called regression tests. We want to see that they're not broken. So feeding back the errors. But it will all, I guarantee you, it'll all pay off when we start integrating with ChatGPT. We may have one or two quick debugging iterations, but we may do what we did in the first part and just everything will just work because we're so thorough with testing. So the tools list now includes Safe Chat. Who could have thunk it, right? We included a Safe Chat tool, but we didn't update the tool list protocol, or was it the test? It tells me all tests pass. Yeah, I believe it. Sure. So this is where doverei, no proverei comes into play. And the funny anecdote, I lived both under Gorbachev and under Reagan. Think about that. Anyway, 16 tests passed. Moving on. So prompt 6. So the next is prompt 7. Implement or execute, more accurate, prompt 7. Hopefully this will be faster. It will not make the same mistakes. I just learned a few things about testing. So implementing was fast. It's just implementing tests will be faster now. I'm still highly confident. We are at 1 minute and 9 minutes, 1 hour and 9 minutes mark. I'm still somewhat confident that we're gonna fit into 90-minute format. Oh, so it now it creates tests on its own. It remembered. It's becoming pretty good, I must say. Going end to end like this with a coding agent, really leaning into its capabilities and really staying out of it, letting it run the show like this. I must say I'm impressed with the progress over the last year, obviously, but last 3 months probably. So we see it much better. performance. Although if you don't do that, if you do not lean in its capabilities, you'll never learn of them. Because normally when I'm coding myself, I'm like, okay, let's do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But now I have to like completely let it run it, let it build everything. And now I appreciate that it can do it. I didn't know that it can do it before I tried. 6 months ago, my biggest problem was controlling it. It would do something really, really bad without telling me. I think now this web engineering method that I developed for myself and now I'm sharing with you guys, it looks like it's working in terms of control and imposing structure and let it do all the scaffolding while we, we are supervising and driving the process instead of wasting time doing things ourselves. So now I'm running the test myself. I don't trust it showed me the error and then all of a sudden it says it's working. So I'm at best save chat. And then I don't understand what it's doing. Okay, so it says it passed it. And I didn't see any errors. So there's something going on with cursor with this chat. It showed something that I cannot reproduce, but it looks good. Okay. Let's see. With the next prompt, which is 8. So proceed with prompt. Next prompt 8. This is the search chats function. And it should perform vector similarity search. Is it similarity? Yeah, I guess. Vector comparison. And then what's remaining is the last step. Once we're done here, okay, I will not jump the gun, but we need to, this is the last tool that we're implementing. After that, we will expand tests to include integration tests involving multiple tools. And then we're going to go and try to ChatGPT. As simple as that. And once we're done with this tool, we also need to commit everything and capture the context updates, because this is a big step. We just implemented the whole MCP server. Interesting. In my OpenAI account, I should be able I don't have it logged in here. Never mind. But if you go into your own OpenAI API usage dashboard, you should see under embeddings API usage, you should see like credits being consumed doing this stuff. But this is the, obviously we're spending some money here by using OpenAI API. So we're using AI and LLM to inside the backend server for the AI. But it's where the value is, right? Those searches is what will enable us to integrate seamlessly into the chat context in ChatGPT. So ChatGPT will create those searches. So we will say, didn't we talk about it last week? And ChatGPT will figure out to search for it inside our Vault, ChatVault, find those chats, find the specific prompt response pair, and it would be able to say, oh yeah, you asked me to do this, and I responded with that. And that's what people will pay $2.99 a month for, to have this type of recall of chats for our widget. We're building a commercially viable product, business, potential business. I'm not, I might do it myself. I might go start selling it if they will release the ChatGPT App Store next week, just to show the complete cycle. I don't expect this to become a huge money maker, but then I can make a video number 5 how to do it, right? So all tests passing. Well, what do we do when it says things like that? We run the tests ourselves. Show open in there. So we have this test log that's being created. And we validate, verify. Um, Okay, so we have now 4 test suites, 33 tests. This is a very comprehensive, obviously need to check if those tests are meaningful, but I suspect they are. So let's go back to our prompt thing and see what's next. So prompt 10. Did we do prompt 9? Proceed to prompt 9, adding integration testing. We also want to make sure that, again, part 2 and part 1 projects match, so that the widget created in part 1 can consume data and gets the data in the same format as part 2 provides. So it is right now trying to compare those. Because probably we put it in, yeah, there is this no negotiables test must verify response formats match part 1 exactly. And the test must be independent. This is not a critical requirement. This is more so that we can, I guess, parallelize testing when doing it during CI phase, continuous integration, when pushing stuff into GitHub and into production, that we can run all those tests in parallel. I'm not a big fan of that. I think if we're saving in one test, we can be reading it back in another test, not a big deal. Pairing a couple of tests instead of each test being atomic. But I might be wrong here. I know there are some people who are very persnickety about their tests hitting certain computer science guidelines. I'm not. Okay. What? It says prompt 9 complete, but I was, oh, yeah, that was prompt 9. Okay, moving on. Prompt 10. Running DB migrations, right? Is that what? No, it's just will be telling us what to do. So I told it that we should be focusing on running the DB migration now in the production database because I don't think it ever did. If I go to Neon, how do I refresh? Maybe like this. Yeah, I still don't see any tables here created. Oh, I take it back. Look here. It was testing using Neon database. That's bad. No, it needs to be fixed. Cannot be testing in production, or we'll be stuck with having two databases in Neon, which I don't want. There's no reason. So back to the testing drawing board. I just discovered that I'm looking at you, yes, you were running the tests in the production Neon DB instead of the local PostgreSQL DB. Why? That's passive aggressive. I wouldn't do that with a human, with a person, but somehow passive aggressive fits this relationship model. Clarifying what happened. Oh, okay, so it did it only for the last step. Uh, uh, my prod DB is full of test data. I'm not going to let it go. And this is a teachable moment. You don't let it go. You don't. It lied to my face basically. Yeah, we're running out of time and everything, but you have to be detail oriented here, because once you lose control, you lose control. Again, you're riding a tiger. Don't let it get away with this kind of stuff. So the issue, yeah, because it had some problem with reading environment variables. So it on its own, without asking for approval, implemented this strategy for getting the environment variables and overriding everything with them, including tests. That's how we got it. But just before that, it lied to me, to my face, that tests were not affected, that it's only the last step that did it. And it's like, oh, don't worry, I created a cleanup test, cleanup script. So we're gonna verify the fix. So we're gonna run this cleanup, verify that it works. We don't have any production data, but this is not a good cleanup. I thought it would be very, it will know which data is test data. And so how do I, without doing this, but I'll do this again, I guess. How do I refresh it? So no rows, it cleaned it up. Okay, and there is a chat stable, so we're migrated. But now I'm going to run the tests again, of course. And let's see if it fills the production database with garbage again. Can we do, no, can't. How do I refresh it? Refresh rows. Okay, so far so good. But it just started the container. For the database. Refreshing rows, still empty. That would have been a huge technical debt if I said, oh, you know what, I'm recording a video, let's move on. No, we fix it, and it's not going to trash the production database anymore. And there is zero technical debt. Sounds like not what you were planning on doing today, but these are not skippable things if you want to be an engineer, web engineer, instead of web coder. I hate this word. So we're good. So now we're starting the server, a real server, right? Let's go to MCP. Oh, there's no MCP. It is MCP. So npm start. Yeah, it gave me those instructions before, and they're kind of obvious to me, so I know what I'm doing. But they were there. We can ask that how to start the server. And I'm also doing ngrok HTTP 8000, right? We're doing it on 8000. And now let's make it wider. and taller. So let's go open this tab. So we have it for a reference. Grab this endpoint. We go to ChatGPT apps and connectors like we did in part 1. This is still the widget created in part 1 here. And create the MCP server using this endpoint. We can call it ChatVault backend. No, still no authentication. That's coming in part 3. And let it connect to this MCP server. It doesn't have any resources, any templates. You see, it's pretty straightforward. Load chat, save chat, search chat. And let's connect it to the chat. And let's do some testing. How are you this fine morning? I just want to create a chat. And it's not a morning. Doesn't matter. Perfect. Where are you located? I just want to generate some small talk. Oh, please. I'm here in northern Minnesota. In northern Minnesota. You betcha. Cold. Today is warm, actually. Today is warm. 18 degrees. Yesterday was -9. Okay, that's fine. Save this chat in a vault for me. Save. I'm rushing a little bit because we're already on hour 43, but I'm not skipping anything. I just stopped talking. Okay, so we can go into the database, refresh it, and we have the chat saved in the database. How cool is that? This is so exciting. Okay, now, can you search for a chat in the vault that talks about Minnesota weather? And it found a chat. Show me the chat. Let's see if it is correct. And it remembered everything. So the search worked, the save worked, and the last one, load it using load chats tool. Load all the chats. And here we are. It said just loaded, and it found one chat. Um, I'm just gonna ask it, can you reintegrate this chat into our chat? This is the first time I'm trying it. I have no idea what will happen. It's now fully reintegrated. So it is in the context. Great. So imagine doing it 2 months later. This is so cool. We did it. Everything works. Congratulations. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to say, please update the context, commit all the changes, and push to the remote repo. Everything works. And probably we'll leave it at that. It will do it. We are at, just to keep us honest, 1 hour 47 minutes mark. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for very, very exciting part 3. We're going to combine both part 1 and part 2 FCP service into one and turn it into a full-blown SaaS with subscription plans, users, credit cards, Stripe, everything. Cool dashboards, everything. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching. Bye. The waters whispered soft and wide, a guiding hand the spirits tied. No border drawn, no strangers claim. The land and sky both spoke the same. Minnesota, northern star, quiet water, that's what you are. Winter swishing on ice and snow, summer's fishing nice and slow. Silent lakes and misty